Welcome to Building Emotional Intelligence. In this video, we talk to Frank, and Frank has made a couple of other videos as well, which you might find interesting. This one is focused on a particular strong event in his life where a neighbor was saying bad things about him, and he overheard that, and it was a strong trigger for him. And he responded out of automatic triggers and responses that he'd done all his life. And Frank will take us through what happens for him in that situation, the development of his awareness of what occurs, and the development of his strategies in terms of responding to those situations, and how he is now in a place of greater awareness and greater ability to respond to these situations in a healthy way. It's an interesting story and a remarkable turnaround in terms of just changing your life to have a healthier response to these situations. So at this stage, I'll hand over to Frank.
I just want to talk about an incident that happened while working through my triggers and childhood trauma, and also probably how it became my default, my go-to when I used to have a lot of trouble with rumination. And, this would cause me a lot of problems. And even though I had some help from Herbert to deal with one situation with a person, and he gave me strategies to deal with that, and I did it that way, and it worked. It was great. But then I noticed that I was triggered by another person, and I never had any time to think. I went straight to my default, and I lost control of my emotion. I went straight back to my default behavior, how I was used to dealing with things. So I realized from doing other classes not to beat yourself up when you lost control, when you couldn't put into practice something that you had learned, because it takes a couple of goes, and just recognizing that the negative thinking, putting yourself down because you had failed, is not the way to go. Just recognize you have another strategy you could use, and there's always next time. So when I lost control at this person because he had said something that I didn't appreciate, I just lost it. So there was a lot of swearing, a lot of threats, and after it was all over, and because I had already done some work with Herbert about feelings and needs, I was able to sit back when it was all finished and reflect on my feelings. And I never liked the feeling of losing control, and I recognized my needs. My needs were that I wanted to be in control of my feelings. I recognized the trigger, was when the neighbour had said something to me that I didn't appreciate. And then that spurred me to go and find help and to talk to my support, Herbert, and other people. There's another place I go to, the Living and Learning Centre, one's called the Nehemiah, which then I'm practicing right now actually, DBT, and it's called taking control of your emotional regulation. And I recognise that it's reinforcing these behaviours. So don't worry if you don't get it the first time. Just keep practicing, don't beat yourself up, and just recognise, practice these techniques. And for me, I'm trying to reinforce better behaviour. So I'm doing the classes again for the second time, just to make sure that these new behaviours stick pretty much, and just let me deal with them in a more healthy way, like keeping control of my emotions, being able to handle this negativity, and also it helps to have some hobbies, and this helps boost your self-esteem. So when someone says something bad about you, you already feel good from the hobbies that you know you're good at, or that make you feel good. So, yeah.
And at the time that happened, one of the other things that you did was we worked together and we explored the source of those triggers.
Yeah.
And I think these things are good to attack on multiple levels. And you've certainly got a lot out of those courses that you're doing and that you're doing again. And the thing that I really enjoy that you do is you turn towards your experience, you turn towards your triggers, and you try to explore what is happening for you, where it's coming from. You have this ability now to separate yourself from the triggers that are coming up for you, and to be able to explore them rather than getting caught up with them and not knowing where to go. You've also got clarity in terms of possible ways you can approach the triggers that come up for you. So it's a skill, I guess, that you're finding very useful in many different aspects of your life, and you're allowing that you're using those skills now on a very regular basis to change your behaviours, and the people around you have noticed significant, really substantial changes in your behaviour.
Yeah, I think the important one is for people to understand that they're going to go back to their default, and it's very important not to beat yourself up, because that'll only take you backwards again. So, but when you have gone back to your default, just sit down and when you're calm and realise what you have learned, and recognise that there is another way. And the more you have them moments, I see in me that it starts to replace that old behaviour. So it might take a few times before you don't react like you used to. Like for me, as soon as that person said something and I heard him say it, and so instead of going 0 to 100 and losing control, well, to take a step back and not let his remarks get to me that much. And just to realise, I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm still going to slip up, but I'm going to sit there and when I'm calm and settled and realise, okay, there is another way to deal with this. And it gives you hope and encouragement when you see the light at the end of the tunnel. When you know, okay, I could do it this way next time, so it won't make me feel so out of control. I would feel empowered by being in control, which is...
And what I hear there is you now have a lot of self-compassion for yourself, that you're not perfect, and you're able to recognize that these things have come from your past, and it was a less than perfect past, but you're able to be compassionate about that. And let go the resentment and the regret, and live with the impacts now and change the impacts that occur for you now.
Yep. For me, I like to, the way I learn is I've got to understand that type of behaviour and where that behaviour will end. So when I recognise, okay, I'm acting this way, and this particular way can cause me to do all these other bad things, that alone helps as a reminder and helps me to change that behaviour, because I'm understanding more about that behaviour and how unhealthy it is. Then having definitely, when you've done that, to learn different techniques as well. So that can help you as well, not only knowing about that behaviour being unhealthy, but then there's a technique that you can use that helps you as well. So yeah, that's how I like to learn. I've got to understand things and how they work, and know the effects from that behaviour.
So you now have a sense of hope. You have trust in these techniques and in your own ability to deal with what comes up for you emotionally. And that's a huge shift, to be able to have that trust in yourself and also in the techniques you've found that work for yourself. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I wish you well on your ongoing journey.